Hello, I'm Clark Crawford, and welcome back to the latest edition of Clark Crawford Sports. Talking NFL football today. Last week, as I missed week one, unfortunately, we gave you a week one recap along with my week two NFL picks. Unfortunately, those picks didn't go extremely well the way I wanted. Obviously, I'm not going to go 16-0 every week or 15 and 1, 15 and 1 or with the bye weeks coming up, whatever. But they didn't go extremely well. My week one picks, which I didn't get on record for you guys, that's my bad. Unfortunately, and those went really great. So we're going to try to bounce back today and give you my week three NFL picks as we also look back at week two to let you know what was going on in those weeks. But before we get started with all that, with your week two recap and your week three kind of preview and picks, there's a ton of injuries to talk about, and your favorite team probably has a few injuries. I'm not making excuses, but the scoring is down in the NFL. And, well, there's a lot of superstars that are out, and it's definitely impacting things. And kind of, I don't want to say no-name guys, but guys you're not expecting to play as much or really having to have heavy snap counts. So let's just talk about a few of the injuries that have happened in the first couple weeks, and some of them date back to preseason. Puka Nacua, the Rams superstar rookie from last year, he's on IR. Christian McCaffrey, IR this past week. Deebo Samuel expected to miss multiple weeks after getting hurt on Sunday. Cooper Kupp is not officially on IR right now, but it sounds like he's a likely candidate to go on IR with his injury history. And then not an injury, but a notable thing that happened in the last few days. Bryce Young has been benched for the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. Wow. Bryce Young being so young, not even getting 2 full seasons to be benched, that says a lot, and things are just up in flames in Carolina right now. Justin Jefferson left week 2 early, seems to have dodged a major injury. I think he's going to play against the Texans this weekend. So good news on that front. Bad news, well, I have him in fantasy, so I hope he's okay. Isaiah Pacheco out 6 to 8 weeks. Joe Mixon, we don't quite know about him, but I think with some injury history there, I think it would do him some good if he missed a couple weeks. That's just my opinion. Even though I am a Texans fan, for those of you who don't know me, I think it would do Joe Mixon some good missing 1 to 2 weeks to get healthy. Tua Tagovailoa suffers yet another concussion, and then not just Tua, I hope you rest up, get well, and everything, and best of wishes to Tua and his family. But on a NFL and fantasy impact, because I'm a big fantasy football guy, that diminishes Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle's fantasy values. Then you have the Evan Ingram injury. He was a top 5 fantasy tight end last year. And then the last one I'm going to talk about today, A.J. Brown, expected to miss multiple weeks. He missed week 2, and it sounds like he's going to miss at least week 3, maybe even a short-term IR candidate. My gosh, there's a ton of injuries. And, well, they just keep seeming to come in. And like I said, that explains why scoring is down. Other guys are not quite stepping up. To bring us right into the NFL Week 2 recap. The Bills and Dolphins, I got this game right. The Bills versus the Dolphins, 2-0 Bills, 1-1 Dolphins now. The Bills crushed the Dolphins. As I mentioned, Tua suffered a concussion. He is out. He's at least been placed on IR, so he'll have to miss that minimum 4 games, which is probably good for his health. And it sounds as though he is not going to retire, as some people speculated. So the Bills crushed the Dolphins. James Cook has 3 touchdowns. Great for my fantasy team, even though I lost with James Cook. But nonetheless, the Bills crushed the Dolphins, and, well, it was a barn burner. I mean, the Dolphins could barely gain yardage throughout half the night. Tua threw 3 picks as well. It was an ugly game. Big win for Buffalo, as many people thought they were going to take a step back this year. I am kind of in the middle of that. I think the division seems it's going to come down to the Bills and the Jets, and may the best team win. They're going to have to play twice, and likely the winner, if one of them takes both games from the other, I think that'll be your division winner. So that's going to be a tight race. Maybe the Dolphins, if they can tread water until potential, if he even comes back, Tua coming back, maybe they can make some noise and tread water just enough to steal the division. But it seems it's going to come down to the Bills and the Dolphins because I don't trust Skylar Thompson. That's just what it comes down to. The Raiders pulling off the biggest upset win of week 2. They are now 1-1, and the Baltimore Ravens are 0-2. I've picked the Ravens 2 weeks in a row, and, well, let me tell you, they've let me down. The Raiders win the game late on a game-winning field goal. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens blow another 10-plus point lead They have the most since I think it's like 2019, blowing 10-plus point leads. It's embarrassing, and the Ravens are now 0-2 in a major hole in their division. The LA Chargers, 2-0, smashed the Carolina Panthers so bad. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they benched Bryce Young, 26-3. Not too much to talk about from that game other than J.K. Dobbins ran wild. And Quentin Johnston, the Chargers' first-round pick last year, well, he had 2 touchdowns in this game. That's a big boost for him considering he was one of the biggest busts last year in the NFL as a first-round pick. The Saints destroyed the Dallas Cowboys 44-19. Derek Carr, yes, that Derek Carr, the same one who's been up and down his entire NFL career, crushes the Dallas Cowboys 44-19 on the road. The Saints are 2-0 and the Cowboys are 1-1. CeeDee Lamb did score a long touchdown, but that was basically the only highlight of the day for the Cowboys. The Cowboys are 1-1 with the tough test coming up this week. I won't spoil it, but I will have that game pick coming up here soon. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers go into Ford Field, unlike the playoff game, and they pull off a win this time, 20-16. The Lions' offense is out of sync. Sam Laporta, who I traded for in fantasy, and unfortunately he stunk this year. He's MIA. What the heck happened? I know Jameson Williams so far is having a breakout year, but let's be real. The Lions were getting everybody involved last year, and Sam Laporta was a top 3 fantasy tight end. So I'm hoping Sam Laporta's, gets off the back of a milk carton for being MIA and starts putting up points. Though I got to give Tampa Bay credit. They went and stole one from the Lions. I did pick the Lions, and I was wrong. Like I said, I had a bad week last week. So Tampa Bay's 2-0. They are one of the 2-0 teams and one of the undefeateds left. So props to Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield, who is my leading MVP candidate so far through 2 weeks. I know there's a long way to go, but Baker Mayfield deserves a ton of credit. So I'm going to say it right now. The season we're over after 2 weeks, Baker Mayfield, at least in my opinion, should be MVP. The Green Bay Packers, another pick I got wrong. They win at home in Lambeau Field and took a game from the Colts. Anthony Richardson, after having a stellar week 1 and looking like, oh man, Anthony Richardson's going to be the guy and everything. Well, it was the opposite. Anthony Richardson played like trash. The Green Bay Packers with Malik Willis. Yes, that Malik Willis who played for the Titans previously gets his first NFL win. I mean, not his first NFL win, but his first one with the Packers. I mean, come on. You let this guy who had a career QBR of under 40 take a game from the Colts who won 9 games last year? That's embarrassing. The Packers went and stole the game. I mean, there's not much more to it. The Packers only scored 16 points and won. Shame on the Colts. You should be embarrassed. You are 0-2, though the Colts could easily be 2-0 because they could have stolen week 1 from the Texans, but they're 0-2, so the Texans have a 2-game division lead. The Browns beat the Jaguars 18-13. And like I said, scoring is down in the NFL right now. 18-13. It was an ugly game. I don't know what the heck the Jaguars are doing offensively. I mean, they even partially renamed their field after Trevor Lawrence, and now he's 0-2, and they paid him all that money. I knew right when I saw that contract extension, it was a mistake to give, at the time, Trevor Lawrence the highest paid contract ever in NFL history. And, well, he can't even win games right now. And he's also lost his last, I believe, 7 starts. That was an ugly game. The Browns come away with the win. They're 1-1. Jaguars are 0-2. The San Francisco 49ers lose to the Minnesota Vikings, who are one of the undefeateds left. This one was a big surprise. Deebo Samuel left the game with an injury. He's going to be out multiple weeks. They're still missing Christian McCaffrey. But, I mean, look at it. The Niners are a much better team than the Vikings, and Sam Darnold, who's playing his tail off, to give him some credit. So the Vikings win 23-17. Justin Jefferson did leave the game early. It seems he's going to be okay and be able to play this week, which, like I mentioned earlier, it is great for my fantasy team, though I still think the Niners should have won this game. Justin Jefferson had a 97-yard touchdown, and Sam Darnold, like I said, he's playing his tail off, and he went and stole one from the NFC champs, San Francisco 49ers, 23-17. The Vikings will play the Texans this upcoming week. The Seattle Seahawks beat the New England Patriots, another undefeated. The Seahawks are now 2-0. The Patriots are 1-1. After the Patriots upset the Bengals in week 1, they cannot pick up their first home win in the Gerard Mayo era. It wasn't necessarily a pretty game. DK Metcalf had a long touchdown. and Seattle was able to steal one in overtime away from the Patriots to improve to 2-0. The 1-1 Jets win 24-17. Breece Hall had another nice game. Aaron Rodgers wasn't great, but was good enough in this one to win 24-17. Will Levis is atrocious. The Titans are 0-2, and they're probably going to be vying for a top 5, if not top 3 pick in this draft. The Titans are just not a very good team. Tony Pollard's had a couple of good weeks, but I mean, if Will Levis is your quarterback and he keeps playing like this, even though the defense is keeping them in games, well, the Titans might as well mail in their season. I know there's a lot of time, but Will Levis is going to have to improve in a hurry, or the Titans are in some major trouble. The Commanders win the game with 7 field goals, no touchdowns, but 7 field goals. They improved to 1-1. They beat the Giants, who are 0-2. The Giants actually scored a touchdown in this game, and the Commanders did not. So the Giants, I mean, I'm sure some more fans, like they did after week 1, stayed after the game, even though it was on the road, to boo Daniel Jones. I mean, Daniel Jones is atrocious. The Giants, before last season, should not have given him a contract extension, even if it meant blowing up their 2023 season, but they gave Daniel Jones a contract extension, and they're stuck with his $40 million a year average contract for at least 2 more years after this. I mean, they could cut him, but it's going to be a major cap hit, one of the biggest in NFL history. So Giants, I mean, at least you got Malik Neighbors, but you got no quarterback, so good luck competing anytime soon until you find a real quarterback, because I'll tell you this, if you don't already know, Daniel Jones isn't the answer. That moves us to the Cardinals and Rams. I did get this game right. The Cardinals smashed the Rams. Well, the Rams might be the most injured team in the NFL so far, losing their top 2 receivers among other players. Matthew Stafford looks a shell of himself right now. Well, he is missing some weapons, but I mean, come on, Stafford. I know you're, at least better than what you've shown so far. The Cardinals win 41-10. Kyler Murray lights it up, and everyone was freaking out about Marvin Harrison Jr. having 1 catch in his first game. Well, he goes for 2 touchdowns on the first 2 drives, kicking my tail in fantasy, and Kyler Murray did as well. Even though Kyler Murray helped me on another team, it was a sad day for me because I wanted a blowout by that one. But nonetheless, the Cardinals deserve all the credit in the world. 41-10, they smacked the Rams all the way down to last place in the NFC West. And, well, the Cardinals, they could be a sleeper team this year, and we'll see how they fare the rest of the season. There's a couple more games to get to, and they are here as I pull them up. The Bengals had the lead late, and, well, a couple of penalties, and Kansas City steals the game with a last-second field goal from Harrison Butker. The Chiefs beat the Bengals again. Burrowhead is not a thing. I'm sorry, Bengals fans. And, well, you're 0-2 now. The Bengals should have probably won both of those games, but Kansas City's 2-0 up top of the AFC yet again. I know it's only 2 weeks in, though there's another thing that needs to go around. Isaiah Pacheco is out. That's going to impact Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. Going to be interesting to see how they navigate. He's expected to miss at least 6 to 8 weeks, and he may not be fully healthy for 12 weeks or even the rest of the regular season. That's going to be interesting how they navigate through Pacheco's injury, because they really don't have great options at the backup running back position. I mean, they have Samaje Perine. They signed Kareem Hunt a couple days ago, and they have that rookie Carson Steele, I believe his name is. So not great options, but they're going to have to find some kind of run game. And Travis Kelce, much like Sam Laporta, one of the top tight ends in the league, he's been MIA so far. I know he had a couple of catches called back due to penalties, but where the heck has Travis Kelce been? Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear about T Swift. I'm done with that. I want to watch football. So that's going to do it there. The Chiefs beat the Bengals, and that's enough to talk about the Chiefs because I really don't want them three-peating. The Texans win an ugly, ugly, ugly Sunday night football game, 19-13 against the Chicago Bears. The Bears are 1-1, and to be honest, they probably should be 0-2. If it weren't for Will Levis blowing that game the week before. The Texans are 2-0. It was ugly. And I don't know, not necessarily like myself, a lot of other Texan fans are kind of upset. They haven't played their best. But, I mean, sometimes you're going to win ugly games. Yes, the offense needs to step up, and there's been way too many field goal attempts, though it's going to happen. Just be happy you're 2-0, move on, and hopefully try to beat the Vikings this week I'll have that pick coming up here in a little bit. Then the Monday night game, maybe the second biggest shocker of the week after the Raiders beat the Ravens. The Falcons upset the Eagles 22-21 on the road. Both teams are 1-1. The Eagles led the game late, and it was an ugly game. It was a hard to watch Monday, but there wasn't much on, so I had it on kind of in the background, halfway paying attention, kind of trying to prepare for this video. And, well, the Atlanta Falcons win 22-21. Saquon Barkley, if he knew how to catch the ball, he would have had an easy first down, and the Eagles, all they had to do was kneel the ball. They would have won 18-14, something like that. But they end up kicking a field goal, and that was it. I mean, they tried to get a drive late in the game, 30 seconds left after the Falcons drove down and score. And, well, that was a wrap. Jalen Hurts tries to go deep to Devontae Smith. It was nowhere near him. He overthrew it. Devontae didn't run the best route, and they intercepted it. The Falcons steal the game away from the Eagles, and that was a wrap. That'll do it for your Week 2 recap. Ready? Like I am, here comes my Week 3 NFL picks. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to put them out there, but let's talk about the games. The Thursday night game coming up tonight, the Jets will host the Patriots. So in this game, I've got the Jets winning. Breece Hall and the Jets. Garrett Wilson finally should probably have a breakout game in this one, though the Patriots could very well shut them down. Though the Jets just have too many weapons. They have Breece Hall. They have Garrett Wilson. Their tight end, Tyler Conklin. It might be kind of a Conklin game just because, well, the Jets have to go to somebody, or the Jets' backup running back rookie Braylon Allen might steal the show like he did in Week 2. But the Patriots, Jacoby Brissett just isn't that great. The Jets have one of the better defenses, or at least should, week in and week out in the NFL. I'm going to take the Jets. It should be probably about a 21-13 game, roughly. Should be about a one-score game. I don't think the Jets are that much better than the Patriots, but I'm going to take the Jets in this game. They should be able to handle the Patriots, especially at home on Thursday night. So the Jets will open up Week 3 with the first win of the week from any NFL team. The Browns and Giants are the next game on the schedule. The Browns are 1-1. The Giants are 0-2. This should be one of the easier games if you're in a Survivor League to pick. I would caution you a little bit, but I think you could get away with picking the Browns in this game if you're looking for a pick because, well, Cleveland 1-1 against the 0-2 Giants. The Giants are atrocious. They mostly just have Malik Neighbors, though Devin Singletary's been a nice run game. But, I mean, you can't really name – I'm not a Giants fanatic, but you can't really name too many other guys on the Giants. I'm not going to try to. I could name a few more players, but let's just put it this way. The Giants are a bad football team. Cleveland's defense should be one of the top defenses in the league yet again this year. I'm going to take Deshaun Watson, unfortunately, in the Browns. I don't condemn him. I wish he was out of the NFL. Though I'm going to take Deshaun Watson and the Browns to do just enough, probably win kind of an ugly game, maybe 24-10, maybe 27-13, something of that nature. Maybe not even score that much. Maybe a 17-3 game. I just don't see the Giants scoring much, and the Browns are going to do enough to win this football game. So I'm going to take the Jets and now the Browns. That brings us to the third game of the week, the Colts and Bears. This, for me, is kind of a coin flip because the Colts are due for a win. Anthony Richardson didn't play great last week. He's due for a bounce back. Though the Chicago Bears looked better in Week 2 offensively than they did in Week 1, I'm going to take an upset on the road here. I believe the Colts are probably going to be favored by a point and a half, 2 points. I don't really check the spreads too much or anything of that nature. I'm going to go the Bears on the road here. Caleb Williams is improving. I still don't think he should have been the number one pick. I would have gone Jaden Daniels. That's another topic for another day. Though, I'm going to take the Bears in this one. The Colts just haven't shown me enough. They were better in Week 1, but they regressed in Week 2. The Bears were terrible in Week 1, but progressed a little bit in Week 2. So I'm going to give the slight nod to the Bears and an upset on the road. So that brings me to the Jets, Browns, and Bears as my first 3 picks of the week. The Texans versus Vikings, a battle of undefeateds, 2-0 for both of those squads. I'm going to take the Texans in this one. I just think the Texans defense is much better than the Vikings. So the Vikings defense has been good for a couple weeks, though I trust C.J. Stroud. here's where it comes down to. I trust CJ Stroud a lot more than I do Sam Darnold, though you got to give Sam Darnold his flowers so far this year. He has played pretty well, though I think the Texans defense, as they had 7 sacks against Caleb Williams by 6 different players this past week, I'm going to go with the Texans defense to swarm Sam Darnold most of the day. Probably going to be a lower scoring game unless the Texans offense erupts. If they do erupt, I just don't think the Vikings can score quite enough to, or they will even score quite enough to catch up or play catch up all game with the Texans. If the Texans get out and hot early, I just don't think the Vikings will be able to catch them. Their offense isn't quite as explosive as the Texans has the potential to be. I'm going to go with the higher potential and pick yet another road team to win. So that brings us to the Texans as my 4th pick of the week. Eagles versus Saints. The Saints are 2-0. The Eagles are 1-1. This one, kind of a little bit of a coin flip. I could kind of see it going either way, though I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one. Some people might call me crazy, but this is the way I look at things. So the Saints have kind of played out of their minds, and they're not going to play this well. What are they averaging? Like 40, 41 points a game, 43, 44, somewhere in the low to mid 40s so far. There's no way the Saints are going to average 40 points a game. Probably the highest scoring team might average like 33 to 35 in the regular season. So I just see in this game, the Saints are going to show some regression. They may play well, though the Eagles have a bad taste in their mouths right now. They played poorly on their home field. They're going to go on the road and get a win because, well, I just don't trust the Saints week in and week out. Not to say Derek Carr can't play well, though Derek Carr's played out of his mind. He's going to show some regression from that. So I'm going to take the Eagles on the road in this one to beat the Saints, who will drop to 2-1. Now, if the Saints come back and win, I'll give them their flowers next week. I just have to see the Saints prove it to me week in and week out. I just don't trust them to win 3 in a row. The 2-0 Chargers, who have actually earned their 2 victories against the 2-0 Steelers, is going to be the 6th game of the week on the schedule. And, well, if I'm going to be honest, the Steelers should not be 2-0. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They played 2 ugly, ugly games and finding a way to win. Now, they do deserve credit, don't get me wrong, for finding ways to win these games. Though the Steelers have beaten the Broncos and the Falcons. The Falcons were terrible in week 1, and they did just enough to beat an Eagles team who should have had that game anyway. So really, the Falcons should be 0-2, but they are 1-1. It's over and done with. That's just the results. The Steelers are finally playing a real team. The Chargers have surprised some people starting 2-0, and Jim Harbaugh is a good coach. Jim Harbaugh. He's a good coach, not to misinterpret or confuse him with John Harbaugh, the Ravens coach, his brother, for those of you who may not know that. Jim Harbaugh's back in the NFL. I think he's back for revenge now. I'm not picking the Chargers to win the Super Bowl. They could squeak into the playoffs, but I think that's their ceiling this year, maybe squeaking into that 6 or 7 seed in the playoffs. Though I'm going to pick the Chargers in this one to go 3-0. They have a better offense. They have the Steelers have a slightly better defense, but I'm going to take offense over defense in this one just because I don't trust Justin Fields. And if you're going to tell me Justin Fields starts the season 3-0, I'm going to call you crazy because the Steelers could easily be 0-2. They've earned their wins, don't get me wrong, but get out of here. No way the Steelers start 0-3. I'm going with the Chargers in this game to win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the next part of the games is I got to pull up the next page. Here we go. The Broncos 0-2 are rolling into Tampa Bay, who is 2-0, one of the undefeateds left. Tampa Bay should wipe the floor with Bo Nix and the Broncos. Bo Nix has shown no promise. And to be honest with you, my first thoughts on Bo Nix, number one, he was drafted way too soon. I think the Broncos could have gotten him at least 15 or 20 picks later. If not in the second round, Bo Nix should not have been a first-round QB. He was too old coming out of college. It took him too long to figure it out. And Bo Nix was my least favorite quarterback coming out of the draft. I'm putting that on record now. And Tampa Bay's just looked too good. They got Mike Evans. Chris Godwin is having the best probably 2-game stretch of his career. He's been just playing out of his mind. Baker Mayfield, like I said earlier in the video, my number one candidate for MVP so far in 2 weeks. I know it's a little early to talk about, though Baker Mayfield deserves MVP as of right now. Tampa Bay should wipe the floor with Denver. Bo Nix needs more time. I don't know why he's even starting for the Broncos. He needs more time. Though, let's be real, they didn't surround him with any better options. So it's kind of like, well, let's play the rookie and see how he can do. It's not going to work out again for the Broncos. I'm not sure when they're going to get their first win, but I'll tell you one thing, it's not going to be against Tampa Bay this week. The Broncos are going to start 0-3. The Packers are going to visit the Titans. So if Malik Willis ends up starting, which it seems like he will, Jordan Love has returned to practice. Though I think it's smart if Jordan Love sits one more week and then returns. It seems because he's younger. What is he, 25, 26? He is going to recover from that injury quicker than, say, an Aaron Rodgers will. Not to talk mess about Aaron Rodgers, though he's going to recover from that injury quicker than Aaron Rodgers. He's younger, and his bones are going to heal quicker. So if I'm the Packers, I rest Jordan Love one more week, let Malik Willis get a revenge game against the Tennessee Titans. And to be honest, because of how bad Tennessee has looked, even though they should have won week one, they choked it away. I can't trust Will Levis right now. So even if Malik Willis does play, if Jordan Love plays, I got the Packers by 20. If Malik Willis plays, I think the Packers squeeze out a win, maybe a 7-point win. They're going to find a way to win. Josh Jacobs was phenomenal last week. He had to carry the rock, 30, 32 times, though he ran for over 150 yards. So with Josh Jacobs being better than what the Titans have at running back, that's nothing against Tony Pollard. I'm going to take the Packers even with Malik Willis because also Green Bay has a better defense than Tennessee. I'm taking the Packers to beat the Titans in week 3. The Carolina Panthers, well, we already know they bench Bryce Young. I mentioned that. The Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, is stepping back in. I don't know if he was even expecting to start this year, but hey, you're making money in the NFL not taking hits, and now he's going to have to take some hits. They play the Raiders, who pulled off the biggest upset win so far this season against the Baltimore Ravens. The Raiders aren't a bad team, though the Ravens are supposed to be here and the Raiders are supposed to be kind of down here towards the middle. They pulled off the upset. Credit to Antonio Pierce picking up his first win of the year. The Raiders should wipe the floor with the Panthers. I don't think it's going to be maybe a 30-point blowout win, but I could see the Raiders winning by probably 17 to 21 points. The Raiders should smoke the Panthers. I'm taking the Raiders, and that should be your lock of the week pick. If you need it for Survivor, that should be the number one pick. I mean, it's probably a good strategy, and I should have done it in one of the Survivor Leagues. Just pick against the Panthers every week, and I think you got a pretty good shot to win. The 2-0 Seahawks against the 1-1 Dolphins. Skylar Thompson's going to start for the Dolphins, and however long he starts, unless the Dolphins are playing the Panthers, or the Broncos, maybe potentially, I'm going to pick against the Dolphins as long as Tua is not in there, and it should be a pretty easy pick. Skylar Thompson is atrocious. I know he has a ton of weapons, but Skylar Thompson could barely throw the ball 5 yards without throwing it out of bounds. All they did was a bunch of checkdowns. Now, I know Tua's a better quarterback, but you got to try something. I think now in this day in the NFL, there's a few too many screen passes. And I know the quarterback play isn't what it was when you had Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Matt Stafford was just in the league, Tom Brady, Big Ben, Aaron Rodgers was still young, guys that were more gunslingers. So there's less gunslingers in the league, though I think there's more opportunities for quarterbacks, but I think more coordinators are a little too conservative. And, well, not to say Skylar Thompson can air it out, though I don't think the Dolphins did him much favors in that game. They were kind of just going, well, we're down big. Just get us through the game here. We'll call some short plays and see if they work. The Seahawks should wipe the floor with the Dolphins, and I have the Seattle Seahawks winning what should be pretty easily against the Miami Dolphins to move the Seahawks to 3-0. The Lions and Cardinals, both teams at 1-1. This game, I'm going to pick the Lions to have a bounce back. I know the Cardinals looked great last week. I don't fully trust them yet. I know Jonathan Gannon's still a new coach. Kyler Murray played out of his mind last week, though Kyler Murray still has some things left to prove as he's still kind of recovering from that ACL injury. So Kyler Murray, I don't fully trust him yet. Marvin Harrison's still getting his feet wet. James Conner, I think, is going to get shut down in this ball game. The Lions, just to me, are the better team, and they're kind of looking for a revenge game. I'm going to take the Lions to upset the Cardinals on the road. It's probably going to be like a 1 or 2 point spread, but nonetheless, the Lions are going to get a big bounce back win, and they're going to beat the Cardinals this week. The 0-2 Ravens against the 1-1 Cowboys, potentially the game of the week. The Ravens are 0-2. Yes, one of the biggest surprises, if not the biggest surprise in the NFL. The Cowboys are 1-1. Even though the Cowboys are at home, I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens in this game. The Cowboys play better at home than they do on the road, at least in my opinion. I don't have all the stats in front of me, though I would say I have a good NFL mind, and I know the Cowboys had a long win streak that was snapped last week at home, or at least in the regular season they did. The Ravens are 0-2. The Cowboys are 1-1. I just don't see any possibility that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens start 0-3. Now, I know I say that, and I give the Cowboys a pretty good chance to win this game, though the Ravens are just too talented to start 0-3. Something just tells me a gut feeling the Ravens are either going to blow out the Cowboys or they're going to do just enough to win this football game, and the Cowboys are going to drop to 1-2. Something just tells me it's the week to pick the Ravens. I know I picked them 2 weeks in a row. I just can't go against them in this game. I have a hard time, and I don't apologize to Cowboys fans because I love the Cowboys being the laughingstock of the league most every year, especially when it comes to the playoffs. So Cowboys, you're dropping to 1-2. That's my prediction. Baltimore finds a way to win that game. How they're going to do it, I have no idea. Though Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh are not falling to 0-3. I can tell you that much. And we're going to move on. The 49ers will face off with the 0-2 Rams. The Niners are 1-1 as they choked a game against the Vikings, who they probably should have beat. Niners are one of the most talented teams on paper. Unfortunately for them, the on paper doesn't count for anything each and every week. You have to go out there and prove it. They've lost Deebo Samuel and they've lost CMC, at least for this game, and potentially more weeks than that, especially with CMC. Though the Rams are missing Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp for this game, at least this game, and probably more, definitely more for Puka Nacua. Both teams are banged up, though the Niners still have plenty more weapons than the Rams do. I'm going to take the Niners. It's probably going to be on the lower scoring side, as the Niners should be able to shut down the Rams. Matthew Stafford's best weapon left is Kyren Williams. I see him potentially having a big week, though the Niners still have Brock Purdy. They still have Brandon Ayuk. They have Jordan Mason. They have George Kittle. It's going to be enough, and the Rams are going to drop to 0-3 in this one. Highly disappointing season, considering Matt Stafford isn't getting any younger. And who knows, Matt Stafford, if they have a bad enough season, he might even retire after this year. We'll see. Though the Niners are going to find a way to win this game. It may be an ugly one, though I'll take the Niners going 2-1 on the season after week 3. The Sunday night football game, the 2-0 Chiefs against the 1-1 Falcons. I mentioned the Falcons probably should be 0-2. They're lucky the Eagles choked the game away, and Kirk Cousins looked a little bit more like Kirk Cousins. Though I think we're going to kind of get, an up and down year from Kirk Cousins just because he's recovering from that major injury. Some weeks he may be feeling better than others after taking some hits, not necessarily dirty hits, but taking some hits. The Chiefs 2-0, they squeaked one out against the Bengals last week. So the Chiefs are looking to put a pounding on the Falcons. They're looking for some revenge. And unfortunately for the Falcons, that's who they play. I don't think the Chiefs are going to, necessarily blow them out. The Falcons have made a good amount of defensive upgrades in the offseason, though the Chiefs are going to take care of their business and move to 3-0. Right now, the way the league is going, and they still have Patrick Mahomes, they still have Travis Kelce, even without Isaiah Pacheco, it's just so stinking hard to pick against the Chiefs. I may pick against them maybe 3 times this year, and then I might get a couple of those wrong because they're going to lose a different game. Though it's just too hard to pick against the 2-time defending Super Bowl champs. That's the way it is. I'm taking the Chiefs to beat the Falcons, though. To be real, the Chiefs are one of my most hated teams right now. I would love to see them lose, though I just don't see it happening, at least not this week. Monday night, there's 2 Monday night football games, one at 6:30 Central Time and one at 7:15 Central Time, as I'm in the Central Time Zone. The Jaguars, who are 0-2, face the 2-0 Bills. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills to go 3-0. The Bills have impressed me so far through 2 weeks. I know they kind of had a little bit of a struggle bus week 1, at least in the first half. Then Josh Allen ran wild and came alive in the second half to pull off a victory. Though Buffalo looked insanely impressive last week. Even when Tua was playing, they controlled that whole game. James Cook is the X factor. They need to, not just because he's on my fantasy team, but just the way that game was played. They kept getting James Cook the ball, and he was mowing everybody over. They ran and called phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal plays for James Cook. He was open, and he did the rest. Great blocking by the offensive line. The Bills' defense was on point. A lot of people thought the Bills were going to regress this year. I thought they might take a step back, though they could just be the Buffalo Bills without a true number one receiver. Sometimes you still get it done. I'm going to take the Bills in this game. The Jaguars, they haven't shown me anything. They've looked awful so far. I can't trust them. I could be wrong in this pick, and if I'm wrong, oh well. The Jaguars are going to win some games this year, though Buffalo looks much better than Jacksonville does. I'm going to take Buffalo in this game to move to 3-0. And the final pick of the week, the 0-2 Bengals, yikes, against the 1-1 Commanders. This is going to be a big Ja'Marr Chase game. The Commanders have nobody who can defend him. T. Higgins might even be back. The Bengals could get a big boost from that. I'm going to take the Bengals, not to necessarily blow out the Commanders. I really like Jaden Daniels so far. I would have had him as my number one overall pick if I were a draft guru. Jaden Daniels, I think, will have a better career than Caleb Williams. I will go on the record with that. Though I'm going to take the Bengals in this one. Jaden Daniels has been okay. He needs to show me some more in the pass game. My biggest critic for him is he's got to get Terry McLaurin more involved. His number one receiver, 28, 29 years old, and Terry McLaurin has had 2 duds of games so far. I know he caught 6 passes last week, but it was for less than 30 yards. That is atrocious. I know the Commanders won the game, but you're telling me you can't throw a couple deep shots to Terry McLaurin. He catches at least one of them per game, a 30, 40-yard gain to try to get some momentum, try to, work that chemistry. It's been bad. I can't trust the Commanders right now, so I'm going to go with the Bengals, even though they've looked probably worse than the Commanders. Joe Burrow has more of a rapport than Jaden Daniels does. I'm going to take Joe Burrow. I'm going to trust the Bengals one more time. If they let me down again, like they did in week 1, I might have to start reconsidering things. But the Bengals, you get another chance. Let's see what you can do. Like I said, it's probably a big Ja'Marr Chase week. Of course, I'm facing him in a couple of fantasy leagues. So, yeah, he's probably going to go off. That's just my luck. It is what it is. The Bengals win, and that is going to conclude my Week 3 picks. I'm going to do it for the latest edition of Clark Crawford Sports. Like my video down below. Comment down below. Let me know who your favorite NFL teams, or if you want to jot up a conversation in the comments, I'm more than okay with that. I'll reply back to you. Let me know you got any fantasy questions. I maybe can help you with that. And then subscribe down below. Help me reach my next subscriber goal. And that's going to do it here today on Clark Crawford Sports. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you in my next NFL video next Thursday.